The tampon king gets back in the ring. I speak of former VP nominee Tim Walz. He joined Beto O'Rourke at a Texas town hall last night, and the estrogen levels were enough to give Chuck Norris menstrual cramps. I wonder, is our strength our diversity?
Our strength is our diversity. We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants, and we let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on D&I.
But I'm thinking there's only one explanation for Tim spewing nonsense like this. Time of the month.
What do you get when a smug TV sniper meets a governor who governs like he's lost in the cereal aisle? You get Greg Gutfeld turning Tim Walz into a political punchline. From failed policies to confused leadership, Gutfeld rips into Walz like a lion on a tofu steak. It's a roast so savage, Tim's approval rating might need CPR. This ain't politics, it's stand-up comedy with body bags. And trust me, it's uglier than Walz's budget plan.
Tim Walz continues to be criticized for embellishing his rank in service. After it came out over the weekend, he once claimed to be an official bikini inspector. Walz's direct superior in the National Guard says Walz knew his unit was about to deploy to Iraq and went behind the back of his superior officer to resign. When reached for comment, Walz yelled, "Hey, look over there!" and then ran away. Although Walz's actions look bad to veterans, Dems say these revelations could really help him win the coward vote.
Oh, Tim Walz. If leadership were a buffet, he'd be that soggy, room temp mashed potato blob nobody asked for, but it somehow keeps showing up. Bland, pointless, and clinging to the plate like a bad decision. Then comes Greg Gutfeld, armed with sarcasm sharper than a lawyer's prenup, slicing through Tim's nonsense like Dexter on Red Bull. This isn't governance. It's accidental performance art, the kind where the canvas is a whiteboard and the paint is expired mayo. It's messy, it stinks, and no one's clapping.
Exploited his military background to cover up his crime. He said it was related to his service and that he actually wasn't drunk. He just misheard the instructions in the drunk test. He blew a super high level. It was like, 0.2, driving 100 miles an hour. And then when he's running for office, he said that he wasn't drunk. I mean, this guy has creep written all over it. He created a snitch line, but lies about his personal infractions. He doesn't even own up to it. This is a guy who pushes a hoax about a sex on a couch, and then the closer you look at him, he's a creepy cuck.
Imagine electing a guy who governs like he's babysitting wild raccoons hopped up on energy drinks. That's Tim Walz in action. He doesn't lead, he improvises, like he skimmed leadership for dummies and decided it was a sacred text. Every decision feels like a group project gone wrong, and Minnesota, it's gone from the land of 10,000 lakes to the land of 10,000 what the hell was that moments. Pure chaos, dressed up as policy.
I saw just recently Donald Trump's executive order to make it more difficult, specifically to women, trying to make it more difficult for women to be able to vote. We see one of the first things they do is try and restrict the vote.
Wait, so Trump is making it more difficult for women to vote? How so? Math problems? But it's further proof that the most dangerous thing for a leftist is a follow-up question, which is why you never hear any. But I guess questioning elections is okay now. But the best moment came when Walz forgot who he is.
Roasting Tim Walz isn't even sport. It's charity work for Greg Gutfeld. The man shows up to the political arena like he's interviewing in Crocs, blindfolded, carrying a whiteboard that just says feelings in Comic Sans. It's like he handed Gutfeld a mic, a matchstick, and a note that said, "Please destroy me," and destroy he did. This wasn't a roast. It was a full-blown sarcasm championship, and Tim Walz brought glitter glue and a participation ribbon to a knife fight.
Walz is a strange.
Oh, he's strange.
He is strange. Him and I are the same age. How does he look so much younger?
No, he's a strange guy.
Strange.
He called up years ago. I was in the White House, and he said, "My house is being surrounded by people with American flags." I said, "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" He said, "I think they're going to attack me." But this was during the riots and everything else. They were MAGA people. They like the American flag, all right? And they also had Trump. And I said, how do you know? There were about 15,000. He said, could you put out a word like that I'm your friend? I don't even know him, but that's the only time I ever spoke to him. And if you look back long ago, tweets, before Truth, tweets, long ago, I put out a statement. He's a good man, the governor. He's on our side. I didn't know him, but I didn't want him to get hurt. And everybody put down their flags and they left. Yes. He said it was a miracle. He said it was a miracle.
Starting with the economy, Tim Walz saw inflation, job losses, and business flight and thought, let's tax everything. Oxygen, smiles, even thinking about moving out. Businesses are fleeing Minnesota like it's a haunted house full of CO mandates and social justice memos. Gutfeld tore through this mess like a raccoon in a compost bin, asking, how does Minnesota make California look like a capitalist paradise? The only thing growing here is paperwork and middle-class headaches. And crime? Walz's plan is toddler level. Blame society, light candles, hug it out. Rising crime? He hopes criminals respond to interpretive dance. It's policy chaos with sirens as the soundtrack.
Went on the same bad cocaine, but Kamala can't speak, he can't speak. Biden was so high he couldn't remember anything. Like, this is literally the dumbest administration of all time. Why is he talking?
It really is the ultimate clown show. And I said this in the 5. He's a clown without a circus. He
doesn't even need makeup.
He's roaming the terrain. Is there some carnival that I could work for? Yeah. I'll watch your windows.
He's a rogue clown.
Yes.
Who is just an inconsequential footnote to vice presidential history.
Yes.
No one will remember his name on trivia night, and that's going to be in 3 months from now.
Greg Gutfeld didn't just roast Minnesota's crime stats. He turned them into a comedy set, flashing a map with "Here be carjacking" stamped over the Twin Cities like a warning label. Walz's crime strategy, basically a mall cop armed with a kazoo and clipboard trying to calm a riot. If he ran national security, we'd all be brushing up on Russian by Friday. Then there's education. Walz, a former teacher, of course, decided classrooms should double as woke performance art studios. Math and science, forget them. Now it's all about spotting microaggressions and building safe spaces with popsicle sticks. Gutfeld fired back, saying the only thing students ace in Minnesota is the How to Offend Everyone exam. Detention's out, safe spaces and TikTok therapy are in, and that's the real lesson being taught.
I'm especially talking about these old white guys who seem to disappoint us on a regular basis in this country.
Dude. You're an old white guy. And you're right, you are a huge disappointment. I guess hating himself is the first thing he's nailed correctly. Because Walz saying old white men suck isn't a political stance, it's his confession. Walz calling people old and white is like Maxine Waters making fun of someone for shopping at Wigs R Us. He wants to execute more DEI policies, and Trump wants to execute murderous gang members. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Can you see the difference?
And let's not skip the CO mandates. Tim Walz handled the pandemic like he was auditioning for America's Next Top Authoritarian. Lockdowns on everything, arrests for bar owners, churches squeezed dry. But protests? Oh, those were spiritually essential, because apparently the virus checks political badges at the door. Gutfeld demolished this hypocrisy buffet, pointing out how Walz shut down grandma's bingo, but rolled out the red carpet for Marxist chants and papier-mâché puppets in the streets. This isn't public health, it's political theater with a clipboard. And that budget surplus. Minnesota had so much cash, Walz couldn't ignore it. Yet instead of returning it to taxpayers, he spent it like monopoly money at a government garage sale, expanding bureaucracy, hiring diversity consultants, and maybe commissioning a taxpayer-funded mural of himself looking deep. Pure political theater, Minnesota style.
As that Walz lost, but one of them, Politico says, is like Walz's wide eyes showed his passion and emotional intensity. Can we show that? There is his wide eyes. That humans would widen their eyes to convey that danger is close. What emotion are you getting from that?
Sorry. Still. That was
Yeah.
Watching Walz spend Minnesota's surplus is like giving a toddler a credit card and crossing your fingers. Apparently, the essentials now include espresso machines for the Department of Overregulation and yoga retreats for gender equity executives. Bureaucracy. Walz turned it into an extreme sport. Try launching a lemonade stand and you'll need 14 permits, a background check, and a pronoun declaration just to get started. It's like Soviet Russia got a makeover, but the dysfunction stayed. Gutfeld joked Walz is going for gold in bureaucratic gymnastics, flipping and twisting through tax policy like it's a circus act. And his fixation on Gavin Newsom? Let's just say Walz is busy turning Minneapolis into San Francisco's colder, more awkward little sibling nobody asked for.
Tim Walz vomits more nonsense.
I called Donald Trump a wannabe dictator. It's because he is. It's because he is. Maybe it's an adult like Donald Trump, you bully the out of him back. This is a weak, cruel man that takes it out and punches down on people.
Wow. Oh. Jamie.
What a
Painful,
douchebag,
huh?
Greg. That was absolutely painful. He was the keynote speaker at this conference. Can you imagine having to watch more of that?
Tim Walz watches Gavin Newsom set California ablaze like a scented candle made of bad policies and thinks, brilliant, but what if I add frostbite and slash job opportunities? It's like he's reading from the West Coast disaster playbook, performing it in snow boots with fewer vowels and way more property taxes. Gutfeld didn't hold back. He called Newsom a walking shampoo commercial with the ego of a Bond villain, and Walz his clueless understudy who wandered in halfway through and started improvising in Pig Lat. Walz parades around like he's the love child of Bernie Sanders and a broken traffic light, posing as a progressive hero while stumbling over every department he touches. And transportation. He pitched a multi-million-dollar bullet train that might show up when dinosaurs do. Meanwhile, Minnesota roads look like a post-apocalyptic Mario Kart track, and residents just want their suspensions to survive past 30. But Walz? He's too busy chasing fantasy projects while the real world falls apart under his watch.
So the tone of the media was one of sadness, not reporting Walz's loss, but mourning it. Now, the truth is that a VP debate is like a colonoscopy. It's important and necessary, but that doesn't mean you want to watch it.
Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Even a deer in the headlights is screaming, "Get the f*** out of the way, dude!" It's no wonder they don't do follow-up questions with Democrats. They're like the top layer of day-old skimpy bean dip. What's underneath, you don't want to see.
Greg Gutfeld rolled his eyes so hard they almost caused a quake. Great job, Tim, wasting billions on a bullet train to nowhere. Walz rambles like a GPS stuck in recalc mode, while his team desperately throws flashcards. Gutfeld said watching Walz explain policy is like a raccoon doing Morse code with oven mitts. Confusing, painful, and totally useless. This isn't leadership, it's a disaster show nobody wanted.
Meanwhile, Kamala's VP, Tim Walz, is being accused of lying about his rank, which is called stolen valor. But in Walz's defense in Minneapolis, stealing is legal. But misrepresenting your past for political gain? I don't see that as a problem, said one woman.
When pressure hits, Walz spins nonsense about bike lanes and feelings instead of crime and economy. Gutfeld called him a magic 8-ball full of vague buzzwords. His farm dad act? Just a kombucha-sipping Chomsky fan, about as relatable as tofu at a monster truck rally.
Video of the day, and he's got a very weird way of greeting his wife of 30 years. Roll it. I want to see this in slow motion. You'll see Walz extends his hand to his wife. She grabs it. They shake. He pulls her close and then goes in for that non-friction hug, all the while still shaking her hand. I wish there was a word to describe that. Oh, yeah, weird. I've seen warmer embraces between Chris Christie and a salad.
Meanwhile, rural Minnesota is practically yelling into the void, hoping for a leader who gets tractors and potlucks, not kombucha and bike lanes. But Tim Walz governs like he's hosting a TED Talk titled Empathy Through Bureaucracy. Greg Gutfeld nailed it when he called him the IKEA governor. Comes in a box, missing screws, confusing instructions, and leaves you crying over a half-built metaphor. Walz thinks policy is a Pinterest board, and leadership means hashtags and oat milk. Gutfeld saw through it all, slicing through Walz's buzzword buffet with pinpoint sarcasm. He didn't just roast him, he slow-cooked his soggy brand of governance into bland oblivion. And the sad part? Walz probably walked off stage thinking it was a standing ovation.